Then came the silence. The screen faded to black, and a single line appeared in white text. Some stories don't end in victory, they begin in survival. It wasn't just a recap. It wasn't an angle. It was an unspoken admission from WWE's production team, a moment of creative surrender acknowledging that the story playing out wasn't crafted in a writer's room. It was real. It was messy. It was painful. And it was unfolding in front of millions who once believed Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins were untouchable. This wasn't just wrestling anymore. This was life stripped bare, love laid in ruin, and healing dragging itself through the broken glass of betrayal. The footage of Becky's collapse had already gone viral, but the vignette WWE aired after her emotional return hit like a second heartbreak. Slow-motion clips played on screen, carefully chosen to remind fans what once was, Seth and Becky walking hand in hand after a win, celebrating title victories together, laughing on backstage interviews where even the toughest crowd could see the real affection behind the performance. Then came the harder memories, the moment Seth denied her pregnancy, the confrontation backstage, and the devastating moment Becky crumbled to the floor, her body folding under the weight of disbelief, sorrow, and utter emotional exhaustion. The vignette didn't include narration. It didn't need to. The imagery spoke volumes, and when the screen cut to black, it didn't feel like closure. It felt like a eulogy. Somewhere, in that space between the noise of Raw and the silence of a woman grieving what should have been a private tragedy, something had changed. The WWE Universe was watching not for spectacle, but for something deeper, for humanity, for redemption, for some sign that the people behind the personas were okay. But Becky wasn't okay. And Seth? He was nowhere to be found. For the first time in over a decade, Seth Rollins had removed himself entirely from the spotlight. No promos, no in-ring segments, no appearances at the Performance Center. It was as if the man once known as the Architect had torn down everything he'd built, including himself. Rumors swirled about his mental state. Some said he was in therapy. Others said he was spending time at a remote cabin in upstate New York. One WWE producer claimed he'd received a handwritten note from Seth apologizing for recent events, but that note was never verified. One thing was certain, Seth wasn't just processing guilt. He was drowning in it. Meanwhile, Becky had begun her quiet resurrection. Though still emotionally fragile, she was taking small steps, rehearsing backstage promos, re-engaging with fans online through simple, heartfelt posts, and slowly, deliberately reclaiming control of her story. She wasn't rushing into title feuds or grudge matches. Instead, she asked to face local talent, developmental names, underdogs, because, as she put it, she wasn't trying to win. She was trying to feel again. One of her first matches back was an untelevised bout against a young NXT call-up. No pyros, no fanfare. Just a spotlight and a story being rewritten in real time. She didn't dominate the match. She didn't try to prove anything. She simply endured it, took the bumps, absorbed the hits, and stood tall afterward, as if every slam to the mat reminded her she still existed. The crowd, sparse but attentive, gave her a standing ovation, not for the victory, but for the vulnerability. Backstage, she didn't talk much. But when a young female wrestler nervously approached her and said, "You're the reason I believed I could do this," Becky didn't answer with words. She just hugged her. And in that hug, there was power, not the kind that wins belts, but the kind that puts pieces back together. WWE began to understand that this story didn't need embellishment. It didn't need a villain or a twist ending. It just needed space to breathe. So they gave Becky that space. No fast-tracked feuds, no forced reconciliation angles, no cheap heat. Just a woman reclaiming her rhythm in a world that had watched her break. And then came the whispers that Seth had been seen in Florida again, not backstage, not at events, but near Full Sail University. Fans speculated he was training privately. Some said he was seeking out Shawn Michaels. Others believed he was watching Becky from afar, unable to stay away but unsure how to make things right. A grainy photo circulated online showing a man who looked like Seth standing behind a curtain during one of Becky's matches, partially hidden in the shadows. WWE never confirmed it. Becky never addressed it. But fans began to believe that Seth, too, was on a journey, not back to the ring, but back to himself. The emotional weight of the story didn't diminish with time. If anything, it grew heavier. Every time Becky stepped into the ring, fans watched not just her moves but her eyes. Was she okay? Was she healing? Was she still carrying that pain, or had she learned to fight with it instead of against it? Becky's social media presence became symbolic, less about branding and more about authenticity. Pictures of her daughter's drawings, quotes about resilience, snapshots of long walks in the woods. It was less the man and more the mother, the survivor, the human. WWE began planning something subtle for WrestleMania. Not a title match. Not a grudge battle. But a confrontation. A moment. A decision. Triple H reportedly pitched an unscripted segment, a live conversation between Becky and Seth, no script, no agents, just truth. The idea was risky. It had never been done like that. But it reflected the weight of what had transpired. Would Becky agree to it? Would Seth even show up? The answer to both remained uncertain. But one thing was crystal clear: whatever happened next wasn't just about wrestling anymore. It was about people. It was about pain. It was about the raw, unscripted cost of love when played out under stadium lights and camera lenses. The WWE Universe wasn't watching for entertainment anymore. They were watching for healing. And that, more than any storyline, is what made this the most powerful saga wrestling has ever seen.